Howdy, folks, and welcome to my new pseudo podcast. This podcast is all about what's going on in the world of STEM. Today, I want to talk about how nuclear energy has been faring and how its younger brother, fusion, has been progressing. To say that we all know how bad of a reputation nuclear energy has. Blow up a few cities, and that's all people remember you for, am I right? But in reality, nuclear is actually quite safe and very clean, aside from the radiation leaked from potential meltdowns, obviously. The technology was hurt by the fact that people were too scared to touch it with a 10-foot pole. But it's still steadily advancing, and more countries are opening more facilities. The only trouble is that facilities are closing about as fast as they open. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand the risks, but the last meltdown was over a decade ago, and only a small portion of the Fukushima prefecture actually remains a no-go zone. I'm not saying that's good, but it's a lot better than what some people might say or think. Now please let me know if I'm preaching to the choir here, because I know people are a lot more informed than one might assume. But I feel like nuclear panic hasn't exactly disappeared. Of course, we memed Chernobyl when the Russians were moving through it a few years back. C, at least, is focusing on the horrible accidents that have happened, such as the case of 35-year-old Hisashi Ochi. His accident, I feel, is well known, but it allowed for the study of the effects of high doses of radiation on the human body. And I think the severity of his condition after his accident has certainly left a lingering stain on nuclear energy. And I feel like that's the biggest problem with the advancement of nuclear energy right now. The amount of black marks that it has from the various accidents that have happened involving it over the years. Don't get me wrong, I mean in no way to subtract from Mr. Ochi's life and accident, really. It's a horrible situation, but I think that this and most of those other black marks can serve as a warning for us going forward to tell us we should be careful and to make safety a priority. Now, nuclear energy in itself is a very good power source, obviously. And like I said earlier, there are a certain amount of risks to come with it, but progress always comes with risks, and I think it's kind of unfair to judge and to put down a clean energy source like this, especially in the times we live in now, where clean energy is something that we're all trying to figure out. And that brings me to my last point. Nuclear fission isn't even the final evolution of this kind of power generation, as scientists around the world are researching and experimenting with nuclear fusion, and even though current tests can only sustain a fusion reaction for about 5 seconds, the fact that this can even be done, I think, is incredible. And with the furthering of technology, I think that it could become even more sustainable and could prove to be the power source that takes us into the future. First heard about fusion when I was really little, and it was because I was super into Spider-Man, and I just watched Spider-Man 2, and I got to watch Dr. Octopus talk about holding the sun in the palm of your hand, and I guess that just kind of sparked something in my little kid brain that would lead me to loving science now and becoming really passionate about advocacy for nuclear fusion and just nuclear power in general. I know it's kind of silly to form a love of science from a Spider-Man villain, but I mean, we were all kids once, and I think we can all admit to doing something a little silly every once in a while. I did forget about the interest for a little bit though, and it ended up getting re-sparked when I happened across a YouTube video by the channel Kurzgesagt. They do like a bunch of like animated science explanation videos, and I watch a lot of their stuff, so I would definitely recommend checking them out if you haven't heard of them. I'll leave it like a link in the description, but long story short, I watched that video and it just kind of reminded me all about it, and didn't remind me, but taught me about how feasible it was and how experiments were actually being run on nuclear fusion. Fusion works when two light nuclei fuse together to create one heavier nuclei. This single heavier nuclei is actually lighter than the two lighter nuclei separated. So the excess mass from this reaction releases energy as dictated by Einstein's E=mc². Now, fusion can actually occur between many different elements on the periodic table. However, most fusion experiments involve a deuterium-tritium fusion. This form of fusion produces a neutron and a helium nucleus and releases a lot more energy than other fusion reactions, while occurring at much lower temperatures. Deuterium is actually quite common, as it can be sifted out of seawater. Tritium, however, is not common. It is only produced naturally when cosmic rays strike nitrogen molecules in the upper atmosphere. It is also a byproduct of nuclear weapons and nuclear reactors. This also explains why Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2 wanted tritium so badly. Both of these elements are also environmentally safe, as deuterium is already making up a small portion of the ocean, while tritium actually bonds with oxygen to form tritiated water, which is actually chemically identical to normal water. I think, however, that I'm going to be wrapping this up now, as I don't want this video to take too long. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be the first video uploaded onto this channel. If you liked, obviously leave a like. I'm going to be uploading more, so if you want to see more, subscribe maybe. Otherwise, thanks for listening to my first video. Sorry if it's a little rough around the edges. I'm still getting used to editing stuff. So, yeah. Have a good rest of your day.